judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I know who Ali. And that is why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear. These two would be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, their Moors, and every people's spirit is moving. They're trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, or sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. What's the enemies there, Moors? The enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and natural principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, the divine prophet, and Ali. Then the prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work in their homes or on the streets, with for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans, it causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will or must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing the turban and fez, and return to the state where the prophet found you. This is a holy and divine movement followed by the prophet Noble Garli. If the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement followed by the prophet to the will of Allah to redeem his people from their simple ways. Peace. Noble Garli.
You're live.
Oh, we're live on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just read the link to be read at every meeting, YouTube. I think we forgot last Sunday or Saturday. Huh? Oh. So, group discussion. What do we want to talk about?
Free for all?
Yeah, free for all.
Let's talk about titles.
Titles?
And creating titles.
Creating titles.
If everybody don't mind.
For what?
I don't know, for land or property on the land. The whole, I don't know, the steps.
So, we can't talk about that without talking about the rights of indigenous people. Right? It says in the rights of indigenous people that indigenous people have the right to their lands, territories, and resources, and we can have. And it also talks about like lands that we've owned historically and land that we've recently acquired. So when it comes to us not really being in charge of our craft, we have to know that in order to acquire that land, we have to do an adverse possession. Then once we do the adverse possession, since there are no titles, you create the title, which is very basic. You just basically say, this is my house, starting at this point. Remember, we did a video on it. I think it's owning land without a mortgage on the YouTube, so you can see detailed, basically how to claim it and how to write a title. But when you're talking about title, you're talking about just a piece of paper that says you actually own it. Because you don't need a piece of paper that says you own something, unless someone challenges it.
Right.
Then it comes into chain of title.
That's like feudal, right?
Yeah, exactly. Feudal, it can be argued, yeah. But our claims can't be argued by Europeans. Only other Moors can challenge our claim.
Somebody had a question online about how to get out the United States Army Reserve now that he knows he has a nationality.
There's something called you have to look it up. It's like, if it's in conflict with your morals, there's actually a clause within the Uniform Codes of Military Justice that you can get other than honorably discharged from the military based on that. I can't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head, but it's based on like moral something. There's an actual word like a word for it.
Being morally compromised or in
conflict. Something like that. Yeah. So just if they just look that up, they should be able to find it because it exists. Yeah. And if your prophet said, "We're for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and not destruction," then that's against your religious rights. Because every time you're in the military, they give you dog tags and they ask you what your religion is, and they put it on a dog tag. And if you don't claim a religion, it says unknown. So if you tell them you're Muslim or Muslim, then you can't go to war.
It's crazy too, because in jail you have to claim something. You go in and get lost.
I didn't know that.
You have to claim something. Yeah.
And they can't force you to take off your religious.
Yeah, they can't force you to take. It's like if you go in there and don't know nothing, they give you Christianity. Like you see in there.
So they can call it Christian.
You can choose. Rasta is in there. Muslims is Judaism. Yeah, Jews. You can get food, culture, and things of that nature. But the thing is this, they don't allow you to be in there, not under take something. So
there's no separation between church and state. Every nation state has their religion.
Yep.
Every single one.
So when you take nothing,
you're stateless.
You go in and when you stay, you end up Christian hordes amongst you, and they do whatever.
Last time they tried to kidnap me, they tried to tell me to take my fez off, and I said no, it's religious. Even though amongst our people we say it's a national headdress, because our people don't really know the difference between dogma and religion yet, or spirituality. So for most of our people, we just say it's national. But when it comes to these Europeans and them trying to make us do something, we say it's religious, because they already know, based on the First Amendment, they can't violate that.
Right. It's funny how you don't violate So in the courtroom and all these places where you would think they're required to remove these things, once you tell them it's religious, they back off the response you want. So that gives you that little confidence that you don't violate that person. You pull up the other amendment, it's another story. So you gotta watch that game.
Anything else?
I want to talk about.
I was going to ask if you wanted to share at all about the case.
Oh, well, yeah, they're on their way.
Oh, on the way?
I will share something else. Well, I should wait till you get to it.
Yeah, so you can just saying, it's not like we're getting cases dismissed out here or nothing. It's not like we got proof to show our people, like, look, this is proof. No attorney.
It's not like judges are sweating in their seats. Sorry, administrators. Right? It's not like we got them sweating or nothing. And then it's literally his case is, to me, the proof of stand your ground. They stood their ground. We stood our ground. But it all comes down to what's actually lawful. But you gotta stand your ground. You gotta know what you're saying and what you're doing.
That's why I keep saying we need to go to district court and sue these people.
I don't see why. I don't know. I don't know
what? Say it.
Nah. You know what I'm saying? I live in big old nations, and I never choose to try to disrespect my people. I love my people to the bottom of my heart. I bleed for my people. So to each their own. We're all fighting. We're all in the same direction with the arrow. Everyone has their way of doing what they're doing. As long as we're, it goes in front of us. So, I don't like rocking the boat.
I mean, it would be better if we had more unity.
Keep peace and that's why I try to practice.
So, I always hear the word unity. What do you mean by that?
All right, when I say unity, right, just like how our oppressors have a structure, that's the same thing we need, because we have certain aspects, like one more to deal with law, one to deal with travel, one to deal with nationalizing.
Yeah, but all of that is law, so we can't even divide that up.
Right. You know what I mean? But we're still not, like, I personally feel we're not like operating like an engine. Our engine is finely tuned. Every mechanism and part complement each other. So I feel we're heading in that direction, but it's kind of slow.
Somebody said we need to get our Supreme Grand Council in order.
Yeah.
We out here like in shambles.
Yeah. So this is what unity says in Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition. Unity in the law of estates. Doesn't status also mean estate? And then nationality determines your political status, especially with reference to allegiance. Allegiance is unity, right? So again, you cannot have unity without a nationality. Period. That's law. That's the law of the word, not just law because I said jurisprudence.
They just woke up and all of a sudden, hey, made it up.
In the law of estates, the peculiar characteristic of an estate held by several in joint tenancy, and which is fourfold: unity of interest, unity of title, unity of time, and unity of possession. So again, when we're even talking about title, you can't be the only one who owns land. We have to own land.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is why the prophet said, if you're going to own land, put it in the name of or Ali, because he was the one uniting all of us. So that when you claim land, it's not just Jamal owning land, it's the Moors own land.
Right.
That's
individual.
Exactly. And then if you just go on Google, right? Everyone just Googles this right now as I'm saying it. Google Aboriginal title. Google Aboriginal title. AB is Latin, means from. Original means original, so from the original. You have a phone? You ain't got a flip phone?
No.
You still have a phone, but you don't? You might want to trade. Right. Aboriginal title. Then if you scroll down, you'll eventually see allodial title. Then when you click on allodial title, you'll see where it talks about defending the property. It takes all of us to defend our state, not just one of us. So there's unity. That's a great point. So also in unity it says, in other words, joint tenants have one and the same interest, acquiring by one and the same conveyance, commencing at one and the same time, and held by one and the same undivided possession. And again, that goes with chapter 3, unity in the Quran, where it says every living thing is bound together by cords to every other living thing. That's divine or religious or spiritual, if that's what you want to call it. Then, since the prophet said this is a divine and national movement, which is civics, right? There's something called res judicata, stare decisis, and there's a case where the United States Supreme Court said that when one person is enforcing the Constitution, he's not doing so for himself, but for the good of the public as a private attorney general. Why? Because I just told you, every living thing is bound together by cords to every other living thing. So if I slap you, I'm slapping me. If they foreclose on one of our people's houses, they're foreclosing on all of our houses. If they lock one of us up, they're locking all of us up. That's also why I keep saying we need to do a class action tort claim against these people. Unity. That's unity. Towards one goal.
Yeah, we need some of that.
Yeah. And then based on that, right? Based on the settlement, because we don't have to go to trial, we can get settlement from these people. Then we have finances to do things like, I know I've said this before, but get a market for you, get some farmland for you, get a embroidery shop for you, get a laundromat for you, get a fishery for you, get a barber shop for you, get a restaurant for you. Blah 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 blah. The possibilities are literally limitless. We're only limited by our own ideas. That's unity. Anything else? Anyone want to talk about? You could also be saying silence.
Well, I did want to talk about trust.
Mhm.
When all this talk about all these trusts being out there, like there's the Chesapeake Trust, and then there's no.
All right, all right, let's be clear. Do you know what Chesapeake means?
Chesapeake, something I looked it up. It's something like I don't know what it actually means.
Right. It's French. Pretty sure it's French. It just means trust made for the benefit of another. That's all it means.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Which is also Chesapeake Trust.
Also?
Yeah. Because it's for the benefit of the Moors. He didn't do it for himself.
What's it called? It's not called.
It could be called a Chesapeake Trust. It can be called a living trust. It can be called an express trust. It can be called a divine trust. It can be called a true trust. It can be called a true express trust. You get what I'm saying? It's not limited to just one thing.
Does the prophet say we are to be aligned under this trust?
Word for word, yes. He said, if you do nothing else, declare your nationality.
And that's being under the trust.
Yeah. But it's not his, quote unquote, his trust.
Right.
It's the Moors' trust. You know what I'm saying? He didn't bring us our nationality. He reminded us of what it was. Remember, your nationality is a bloodline. You can't lose that. We lost the knowledge associated with it. So he just brought it back. He said, this is yours. He said, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. Now take it and save yourselves. Meaning, let's be the administrator of our own lives, our own trust, our own government. So it's not just his. You know what I'm saying? It's ours. That's why he said, you know what I'm saying? Your temple. He didn't say my temple. He's the founder. But he said your. It's about the people.
All right. So by that logic,
yep.
Any foreign corporation that's operating on our land, other than us just putting claims on them for violating us, don't they have to pay us for operating on our land once we realize, hey,
yes,
Macy's is right here where our graveyard used to be.
Yes.
You know? So how do we take steps on, or that falls under the tort claim, all of that as well?
I wouldn't say it falls under the tort claim. I would say we could achieve that goal through the tort claim. We can get closer to that goal through the tort claim. Because based on the tort claim, it results in them paying us. And then if you relate that to the treaty, they were paying us. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way I see it, that's bringing us closer to that goal. The way I see it, the tort claim brings us closer to each other, because then we see, okay, these Moors aren't just speaking about this law stuff.
I got
it. Please. Oh yeah, just a reminder, if you didn't sign in, please sign in. Also, since this is our space, class is 10 notes. So if you didn't pay your dues, what's wrong with you? So, where was that? Unity, tort claim, bring us together. So, then other people can see, like, you know, my mom, my dad, my sister, all of our other family members can see, oh, they're not just talking law stuff and, well, does it work? Does it not work? I'm afraid. What do I have to give up? Because Europeans, blah, 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 blah. Any excuses that our people make up, because we already know they make excuses. Once we are successful in a tort claim, that's going to show them, oh, they're winning over there. Let me get with the winning team. You know what I'm saying? So now we have more people to support what we're doing. Then we can, you know, do so many other things. Literally, the possibility lies within all of us. Whatever idea you have on how you think we can move forward, we can use that finance to do that. Because based on what they're doing to us, which is, I wrote this in the tort claim. You as an example, right? When they unlawfully arrested you and took your property. If they would have found you guilty of a crime you didn't commit, you would be not only in jail, your children wouldn't have a father, right? Which would bring up the destruction of their lives, because now half of the family unit is not there, which is a violation of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of a Child, and a violation of the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights and the rights of indigenous people. Which children will be struggling, which falls within the definition of genocide. When you read the definition of genocide, it's not just about killing members of the group. It's about putting conditions on them that will bring out a slow destruction of either a slow destruction or an immediate destruction of their group or their families. That's genocide. The punishment for genocide is not only imprisonment, but $1 million. That means for your individual situation, just you, I'm not talking about every one of us have been in a situation with Europeans. Just you get $1 million. Right? So that's $1 million. Now let's say all of you want to be part of this class action suit. So now you get $1 million. You get $1 million. You get $1 million. Like Oprah, you get $1 million. You get $1 million. Now how many millions is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's at least $13 million in this room. What can we do with $13 million?
Set up a temple, set up our businesses.
That's the power of the tort claim. Not just the tort claim. That's the power of the people being involved in the tort claim, because they can get $1 million too. As long as their name's on the thing and they present evidence to the record. You don't want to do it.
So lock everybody out.
Peace. So you want to ceasefire. You expect me, right? A veteran, to have my back to a door and have it unlocked?
That's a normal human.
Huh?
That's a normal human comfort. Nobody likes their back to unknown.
Oh yeah. And I had so many problems pronouncing your name. In the beginning, Is that your phone?
Yes. Someone who loves me gave it to me.
Oh yeah. Also, foreclosures is talked about in the Quran. It talks about thousands of people are abandoning their homes because of fear of death, right? And most of our people, once they hear that the Europeans are foreclosing, what happens? They're panicking, they're crazy, which now they're going through mental anguish, which is a form of genocide. Read the definition of genocide, please. So just by them saying I intend to foreclose, we can charge them with genocide. How are you foreclosing on my home, on my land? How are you doing that? So anyway, most of our people hear that, they get fearful. So when the Quran says, die, and Allah will bless you. Meaning, that doesn't mean kill yourself. That means conquer the fear of death in your mind, and you'll see. It's merely an intent to foreclose. They're not foreclosing. They're trying to see if they can extract more finance from you.
It's true.
They're trying to, like we all know, they try to, they're bluffing, and they want to see if we can call their bluff. This is where the knowledge comes in.
They're testing our competence.
Exactly. This is where the grand sheiks of every single temple is supposed to be teaching our people civics, because you cannot be secure in anything if you're not even secure in your own house. Like the Prophet said, our people cannot reach the highest level of spirituality in anything if they're better people. Now, if you're begging for a place to live, how are you spiritually? True. Now, I'm not knocking anyone. So I was living in my mom's basement for a while. I'm not ashamed of that. Because these Europeans stay at home until 25-ish, right? Their parents don't throw them out on the street to struggle. They set them up for trust funds.
Stay home until they get married. Still stay home until they make enough money so they can buy their own house. And that's what they do.
They set them up for success.
Yes.
Not failure.
Yeah.
So any more thinking, oh, I stay at my mom's. Oh, I'm not imperialist. That's the mindset that the European put on us. So our families stay in perpetual destruction.
Yeah.
Most countries' families live together forever.
You can't have
Husband, wife, mother, grandfather, children, sister, they all live in the same house.
Because you didn't say unity means a state, right?
Build business. If you want to be the Hindu, they don't play games. They stay together.
Yes.
They build businesses together. I work for a family, wonderful Hindustani family.
I know we need more chairs. I took on the floor.
They started a business, their son was
Bring it up the stairs.
All right, so remember I was telling you about testing? You still here, John, if you want.
There's a spot next to the printer you can sit on, actually. On that wooden thing.
So you want to read Necessity Q Trust and then Necessity QV? Just so we have a clear concept on what a trust is, etc.
Necessity Trust. Syndicate Trust. He who a beneficial interest in and out of an estate. In and out of an estate, the legal is vested in another. He who has a right to a beneficial interest in and out of an estate, the legal title to which is vested in another. The person who possesses the equitable right to property and receives the rent, issues, and profits thereof, the legal estate of which is vested in the trustee, beneficiary of trust.
Now stop right there. Is or is not the birth certificate within that trust? Right? Does it or does not say the legal title is vested in someone else? So how are you authenticating that birth certificate and then owning that if it clearly says it's owned by someone else?
Or rather, how does the trust benefit?
Exactly.
How? Because the allegations are that you can use it and be free and do all that stuff. How does the oppressor give one that?
How does someone else give you freedom? Explain that to me. Some of these people talking about authenticating birth certificate, explain that. How does someone else give you rights? Besides your mother, when she made you in her womb.
No, but for what I've heard of the authentication of the birth certificate, it was to basically state that this is actually you. Because any one of us can get anybody's birth certificate. You can get a copy of it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
See what I'm saying? And it falls under fraud if everybody can get a copy and claim to be you. All they need is a birth certificate.
So now, does that paper make you, or do you make you?
No, we know that you.
No, you know that.
I know that.
Yeah, you know that.
No, but is it an instrument?
It is an instrument.
All right. For what?
Exactly.
They do stamp it with the baby's footprint.
Because they try to make a minor a party to that contract. They're trying to identify their property. Yes.
The birth certificate, isn't it like basically that you're two different people? Like even like when you get mail, they put your name in capital letters
Because
it's based on a birth certificate, which is a person or something like that.
Yeah, it is a person. Yeah,
but it's not you.
Exactly. So that's not your name. Exactly. Remember I was telling you about in the book of Revelations, it talks about the red dragon devouring the woman's child as soon as it is born. Birth, B-E-R-T-H or B-I-R-T-H is the same. The root word is bear, to take to, or like, so like when you bear something, when you have something on your back, you're bearing the load or whatever.
Bear on ships,
exactly.
So you're bearing the load of that person on the birth certificate.
You're bearing the load of that debt that they put on that instrument. Yes, that's what they're doing to you. Because when a ship is birthing, B-E-R-T-H and B-I-R-T-H is the same thing. When a ship is birthing, entering the doctor's office, right? Dragon, doctor, right? When the ship is docking, exactly. When the ship is docking, they get a birth certificate so that they're certified to be at that dock. And when the ship is actually birthing, it's anchored. I mean, it ain't going anywhere. So we can't go anywhere because they're putting this crazy amount of debt on us that ain't ours. That's what this birth certificate is used for. So how can you then take that and then use it for your benefit? Yes.
By controlling it.
How?
By certifying that you are one of the name of that estate that has beneficial ownership of it, but you're stating that as a flesh and blood, just like your credit card company have their trustee come in and have their lawyers state that, because only the owner of the contract can be the plaintiff in court. So they're pretending to be you by pretending to state that they're the beneficial owner of that estate. The reason why that estate is important is because flesh and blood can interact with the beast. So the beast have to create its own creation, which we mistakenly call ourselves in their system.
Okay.
All we're doing is controlling their creation,
okay,
and putting it under our flesh.
Okay, so we just established that SSQ is a trust created by someone else, right?
Correct.
I have a family trust, right?
Yes.
Can you then write yourself in as having any type of control or administrative control over my trust?
If
what?
You haven't made claims.
No, I wrote it.
And it would be, well,
no, the answer is no.
Yeah.
You cannot be party to my trust if I don't allow it. So by them certifying anything, they're just certifying, yes, this exists. That's not saying you are a party to this now, or you have claim in this. That's not what that's saying at all. It's for all. That's the point.
That's
okay.
Correct.
All right.
But it's still their system.
It
and
is.
In this system, where everything is claimed by them,
yeah,
including the straw names that they're using, the only way to gain control over it is the same way that their lawyers and their trustees do, by assuming to be the captain of that vessel, because we haven't claimed the vessel, which is ours.
But it's not ours.
That's
they
correct.
created it. That's why we extra. Yes, you had a question. I apologize.
I just want to make sure my understanding of authentication of birth certificate is authentifying and certifying wardship.
Basically, yeah.
That was all. Just wanted to
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Okay. You need drawings? No, I got share with everybody. I love strawberry.
Once you have the certificate, if you authenticate the certificate, you don't have access to the funds or any benefits. You just say, this is what you have made under my flesh and blood name. Now I have it, but you don't control the finances.
Exactly. But you can't.
It's a real estate. It's commerce. It's business.
There's no equity in there that you can
access
and use.
See, Ellie knows.
Wait, say it again?
There's no equity under the straw name you could access via USD or gold or any certificate across the world that you could access and make.
So are they accessing it?
They're making false debt and credit off that name based on our day-to-day work that we do and work off. But you as a national can't use that their system and their fake capital name and use it for your benefit and actually use it as a note that you purchase things with. No, or buy things on. Or
those two different systems.
But what would be the benefit of having that certification that you can't use it? If you say, if you exit out.
Can I add on to your point? In the treaty, Article 17, it says merchants can buy and sell at free will. So we can't use the argument that it's commerce or it's business. Because you can buy and sell at free will in whatever name you want. Meaning you absolutely do not need it. Because, when I go to Walmart and I buy something, they don't ask me what my name is. They just accept the fiat.
No, they buy and sell in our name.
But I want to ask you a question about a name. But what is your name? What is your name?
I'm Jamal Talibu.
No. I don't mean that.
Oh, that's my name?
When you use that, what do you describe?
When I use what?
A name.
I'm identifying myself.
Like if I say, my name is Michael Bay.
Hmm?
What am I describing to the public?
You're identifying yourself.
But what do the public identify
as? Whatever you tell them.
Okay. So that's why this system is so beautiful. Like I'll say to my son, I said, if you see 5 birds flying, what's the name of the third bird? See,
that's what we're trying to hear.
You know, name is means of control, ownership. My name is the name of my state, even though we call me, but in the United States, that name is in the state, period.
It is, but it's their estate.
Hold on, which is separate than my name, which is referring to what I answer to. So you can call me Big Ed Boy, and my answer, that's my name.
Mm-hmm.
So the name is like a deed, an estate, an express will that I would answer to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the mental, when I hear people names, I'm like, okay, the name of the document, the name of my corporation, or the name of my state. All I'm doing by authenticating it is claiming my state. The paper that belongs in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Not have nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with belief. It's just my known that flesh and blood is separate than this organization that I'm claiming. Organization could have been called AT&T. If my name was on it, I could claim it and claim it on UCC. But we have to see that separation so that when we know that when we're talking, and we're talking about claiming our name and changing and authenticating, we're talking about estates. We're not talking about ourselves because flesh and blood can't interact with the system at all. In no way. There's always a separation.
So would that be like showing competence
But
as far as the corporate aspect on this corporate name that they have us under?
Now, I'm asking how. How is that showing competence if it's a name that someone else made, right? The estate is already your land. You're claiming it by nationality.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where the prophet said, leave all old business as it is.
Correct.
You conduct all new business in your free national name.
All right.
So if you authenticate old business, you're not leaving it as it is. You're going through a process now.
All right. So let's say, like, for example, me, I have to go through the process of changing my name. Once I, authenticate or sign my corporation or my estate, utilizing my EIN, the first thing I have to do is close out all accounts associated with.
That's not leaving old business as it is.
But this is me. This is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to close out all accounts associated with that Social Security. Then I'm going to put that Social Security up because it's still mine.
Yeah.
I'm still the beneficial owner of the credit that's been growing in that since my birth. And since they created it based off of me, and I should have access to that for whatever.
Now, you're going to ask you one question. Can a minor be a party to a contract?
Okay, so
that's a yes or no question.
All right, and I understand, that, and that's why you have to really love this system. It's based off of fraud. Everything on fraud is right. Right is wrong. Wrong is right. When they do things the wrong way, they're doing it the right way. Right? Because they're going to hit you with, for example, if you want to declare who you are as the straw man, and you're going to put it all capital. So you put in the first, middle, last. But if you want to declare who you are as the private, real person, you have to do that backwards. You have to put in last name, last name first and middle.
Wait, says who?
That's
because usually they call you by your last name.
Correct. It doesn't have to do with that. Right. It's still not.
No, that's
It's how they separate, because all capital is automatically a fictitious entity. Mm-hmm. Just by having it written, whatever the name is, that's how they say over claim to be the plaintiff and suing you as a third party for your benefits anyway by assuming to be the fictitious you claiming to be that, and then putting you in for taking out money from your own account and then charging.
But it's not your account.
Because I don't want to use specific term. I don't say remove currency from your credit because it's a book entry that now you have to understand how to close it, utilize the correct tax procedure. But that's the whole.
We have to be specific so that way.
Correct. So
understand.
Right. I understand, but
that's need to know basis. Basically, what you're saying.
Right.
You have to have that. You have to be here in class
have conversations about procedure.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. But we have to understand what's being put in front of us so that we can study those procedures so we can be proficient so that we're not fighting about how I'm going to remove myself from myself and when what we're talking about is how we control this corporation. I'm gonna access or be the trustee of this entity like I'm supposed to be, because right now the state is, i.e., you need a state license.
Now, hold on. Why would you ever want to control someone else's thing instead of being in control of your thing?
I agree with that. Eventually, that's why.
Hold on. But there is no eventually.
Okay.
There's only now. If you think about time is a cycle, right?
Yeah.
What's the future is predicated on what's happening right now. Is that or is that not true?
Correct.
Right. History, you can relate that to what's happening right now, right? So the only time is present. So if we don't change the now, then there will be no eventually.
Well, whatever we move in currently is what we will.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, exactly. So we reap what we sow, right?
Correct.
So if we're only dealing with strawman, we're basically going to stay in that.
So basically,
Sorry. Yes.
So basically, to sum it all up, one cannot serve two masters.
Exactly. Thank you.
But as the master, listen to this now. As the master,
it's like people don't understand the I am.
That is correct. Like right now, we are the master. We are the slave of an entity that's a condition.
You can say that.
Right. I'm just saying, like I'm speaking on how where we're coming from.
Yes.
To show where we have to go.
Yes.
Because yes, it is true that you and I and everyone in this room are free flesh and blood. But that's always been true since we were blood.
Yes.
Since we were born. The only difference is your mentality is waking up to how we live. All right, so we have the options to get up and we can sit down in front of this Monopoly game and we can play, hey, give me my money, and I'll roll the dice and I'll what's the way to get up and live our real life. You know what the difference is.
So I get what you're saying. You're saying why not just be masters?
Correct. And in commerce.
We serve no one.
And in commerce, make the commerce system and build our real lives.
Wait.
No, go ahead.
If you in the UCC 9-311, when it talks about treaties and enforcing treaties, it just says to follow the treaty. There's no process. We have to start enforcing the treaty, and then they'll create a process for us because it's becoming a problem for them.
And what's one way?
But wait a minute, but we can't allow that. We cannot allow someone else to create process for us. We already have a process.
It's how to deal with us. Exactly.
Deal with our paperwork, how we're going to interact with each other, which would be going back to the treaty. They just have to create a process for their own system.
Yes.
Correct.
So it has nothing to do
with us.
No, but you talked about talking about the procedures. But that would be addressing what are the procedures in their own codes. It says there is no procedure, just enforce the treaty.
Right. Because
that's it.
A party to that.
It's just not enough of us doing it.
You have to declare your nationality.
So that's the process. Well, like you said, it's a mental one. Correct. This is where people are getting confused. Well, where do I send my documents? Where do I do this?
Right.
It's happening here.
Now that's the other part where you show where we are lacking in the structural part, because everything that they have, we should also have in the
Yes.
And that is what I'm saying. Well, we have to be able to survive them both while we're building up.
Yes.
The sure.
Exactly.
But we can't just say, okay, forget the straw, man.
Yeah.
No, you
can't do that.
That's what I'm saying.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying
that. Which is good, because we have to learn what the creators are.
So now,
so we should be.
You're right.
Learning, relearning.
This is where the straw name that they try to put on me. I didn't authenticate crap.
Correct.
I didn't leave it. I didn't do anything to it. What do? I swipe that card. TDC. If you send me anything in the mail with that name on it, Jamal Tlaib will deliver X-Rel. That's how I deal with things. So, yes, threat, duress, and coercion. Meaning, if I don't swipe this card, I can't eat. If I don't swipe this card, I can't travel. If I don't use this fiat, I basically can't do anything. So under threat, duress, and coercion, I'm doing these things because we as a people, like you said, under the de jure, the people have to wake up and be be the next sultan, be the next secretary, be the next administrator, be the next registrar, be the next mufti, be the next whatever. We are the ones that have to do that.
Yeah.
So you're right. But in the meantime, I just ex-relation means I have information pertaining to this, but it ain't me. That's all it means. So to avoid, you can put Daffy Duck, TDC. You can put Bob the Builder. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. You don't have to put your name. You can put draw. Yeah.
So the system that the U.S. court operates under, it's not a system of ours that they infiltrated. It's an actual system that they came and implemented here.
Yes, it's a corporation. Now we taught them. Right? This is where they give you the story of the Indians teaching the Europeans, quote unquote, democracy, but we really taught them, well, first of all, we ain't Indians. We taught them what a republic is. Based on those principles of law, they unified themselves with the Declaration of Independence, with the Articles of Association, and then they made their constitution based on our law of the Great Peace, which when you read Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco, you see where he sends the Sultan a courtesy copy of the Constitution. So it's their system. Peace. Oh, look. Let's see you in a minute. Congratulations.
Hey.
You want to talk about it?
Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that's fine.
Well, they'll have my chair if you want, right?
That's it is my hand.
So this was y'all all seen the video when I got pulled over by the cops, Trish Mercaccio, Connecticut State Police, right?
Yeah.
They smashed their window on their car and took me out of their car. That's what happened. Right? This is a criminal offense bond where she wrote my free national name. She put the legal Dula Bay Jamal, like y'all were saying, they put it backwards. But it's still my free national name, and it's regular caps, right? Then on the signature, you'll see where it says TDC UCC 1-308 and a scribble. Now, based on this, you can't tell who's party to this, because that signature don't match that name, and that's clearly someone else's handwriting. So I'll pass this around, and then you'll see where I put from Jamal Taliwa Abdullah Bay. I didn't answer to I didn't answer to anything else because that's who I am. It don't matter. And then you'll see where, as far as the car's concerned, this letter is, I'm sending it to Gary M. Cosby of Key Bank, because, you know, when I was in that mindset, I signed that I'll take on this debt for this car. So you'll see where I told the people of that bank, since the police department has your car, they're taking on the debt. And I CC'd them. So there's no process. I didn't do no UCC, nothing, financial statement, nothing. I told them, since they have your property, I'm not paying crap. You guess how much I paid since then? Zero. And it says Jamal XREL strong name. No authentication, no nothing. They didn't do nothing to me. I'm here. Right, you see me.
What does XREL?
XREL means in relation to, or you have information related to this matter, but it doesn't mean it's you. And pass this around. You see, this is the criminal appearance bond. So I'm not just saying over here theory, never been arrested. No, this is, I walked this, right? And this is all the information pertaining to that case. I didn't pay them nothing. Nothing. They arrested me, said, you violated all these laws, $10,000 bond. I said, no one's paying that. So they put me in a cell for like 4 hours. I'm sitting there meditating. It's cold in there. I got a dirty blanket, smells like piss. It's whatever. Then some European comes in and says, since you've been cooperating, we'll drop the bond to 500. I thought I just violated all these laws. I thought it was 10,000. What happened? I'm cooperating by sitting in the cell? That's called mental torture, right? Anyway, didn't pay nothing. Pass it around. Here's all the other stuff. Here's copies. Here's the certified mail that I sent to them. This is the letter from Key Bank. This is, yeah, I have all the information here for people to check it out. But like I said, we ain't just talking it, we walking it. This one, this one was to the owner of the tow place. So yeah, I put all these people on the list, all of them. And I sent the same document that I sent to Key Bank, I sent to William J. Fox, who was the chief of Connecticut State Police. And since he did not rebut, guess what he does? Takes on the debt. So now I'm good. I'm not paying crap. And they didn't deduct any type of finance from that straw account, because in order to do that, what do they have to do? Go to court. Right.
So as far as navigating new contracts,
yep.
Right? Because you have maybe people who are incoming, or you start businesses. Before you start businesses, we're varying employment, right?
Yeah.
Can you TDE those contracts?
TDC.
Those?
Yes. Now, with those contracts, so let's say you leave this old job, you found out you're more, and you're trying to work a new job in your free national.
Right.
Lawfully, they cannot say, we can't hire you unless you have a social security number. That's unlawful. Because when you read Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, it says no obligation shall be placed on contracts. So you're trying to work for them, which is a contract. They're saying you can't unless you have a social security number. That's putting an obligation on the contract. It's also a violation of the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, where it says that no one may be forced or compelled to belong to an association. In order for you to have a social security number, you have to belong or associate with the, what's it called? Social Security Administrating, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But this is where the prophet was telling Moors, own your own stuff. So instead of being an employee, which means servant by law, and then getting an employer, which means master by law, have your own business or be an independent contractor. And when you read employee in the law book, it'll tell you it's distinguished from an independent contractor. So that's how we're supposed to be approaching situations as independent contractors and owning our own businesses.
And if they don't obey all of that,
that's when we are supposed to do something as a body and sue them. Like we're trying to. It's just we have to be competent enough to know how to go throughout that process, which is why we have been doing class every Saturday for a year.
So to first navigate, before we, as like a middle ground, where someone is saying, well, I need work authorization. Well, I need to see this document. You can say, well, you can try to negotiate as an independent contractor instead.
Exactly.
That should be step one.
Exactly.
Those things, let's do it this way. This is how we sign our contract.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm called Spec Technologies. I was a whatever. I went as an employee. I was just out the military, had my own company van, blah, 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 blah. There was a guy who was an employee. He was an independent contractor. He said, I'm not working on Saturdays. I'm not working on weekends. And I'm not being on call. Everyone else was on call every other weekend and it rotated, except for this guy. Because that's what he negotiated. Because he was smart. He was European. He was smart enough to know, I have rights.